Good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, good base Nissan. 2 days to go until Erev Yontif. We are learning the 15th Perek of Yevamos. And today's shir is Lila Nishmas Aaron Nachman. Today's shir is Lila Nishmas. The 12th of Nisan is the year set of Rivka Bas Yisrael. And Lila Nishmas Aaron Nachman Simcha Koy, Yusha Morcha Shepsel. Bracha Shabbos Olev, and Moshe Ben Yosef made the Neshamos all have an aliyah. And for Shlomo for Yisrael Ben Rachel Leah, Yibachor Rachel Bas Pesach Zolder, Avram Yitzchak Ben Risha, Chai Bas Bela, for Shlomo Sof Shach Chol Yisrael. And as a schus for Avram Yeshua Ben Gittel, Shefer Bracha Vatzlacha in all his endeavors. And shout out to our good friends at Imperial Advisory Group for sponsoring Seder Nashim. They are experts in CFO stuff. If you need a CFO or a fractional CFO for your company, please reach out to them directly at imperialgrp.com. Okay, here we go. Perek Tezvav, Mishnah Aleph. There's two chapters left. It's Yevamos. It's today and tomorrow. And okay. Mishnah Aleph. Haisha Shahalcha he Ubala L'Diyasiyah. If a woman went with her husband overseas, you know, right now in the days before Pesach, people traveling for Pesach. So they went overseas. They went from Eretz Yisrael to America, Chas Shalom. They went from America to Eretz Yisrael, Halavai. Shalom Bein Levena. If there was peace between her husband and herself, there's Shalom Ba'olam, and there was peace in the world. Okay, so not this year. Okay, there's no. They went out a year where there was no war, there was nothing going on. She came back and said, "My husband died." Tinasli, she believed that she can remarry. Similarly, if her husband had no children, Mays Bali Tisyaman. She said, "My husband died." She performs Yibam with his brother. Um, so even though if her husband is really alive, then the Yibam would not only be an Isser, but it would be an Isser of Avish's Ish, but also the Isser of marrying her husband's brother, which is two problems. So nevertheless, she can go through Yibum based on her own testimony that her husband had died. And obviously, if the Evan does not want to do Yibum, then he can do Chalitza, and then she's free to go. And the next is Shalom Beinu Leveina Avacham. If there was peace between her husband and herself, but there was war in the world, let's say like this year. Ketata Beinu Leveina Shalom. Or if there was a conflict between her husband and herself, and even though there was peace in the world, she came and said, "My husband died." She is not believed that she may not remarry. If she hated her husband, she might be lying about his death to free herself. And if it's a state of war, she might be mistaken about her husband's death because there's a lot of confusion during wartime. Rabbi Yehuda says, the Olam Edom Amen. She has never believed that you can basa bocha Kruin, unless she comes while crying with her clothes as the sun in the morning. Just her word is not enough. She has to have public displays of Avelis as proof that she's telling the truth. No one's going to believe her. She just comes to the basement one day and said, "My husband died." But if she comes with big Avelis, or they see pictures of her sitting Shiva or whatever, hopefully they're not AI generated, then that would be a heter. It's very difficult to fake the feelings of grief and mourning. Those are usually genuine. Amrullah the Chum said to Rabbi Yehuda, Achazu, Achazu Dinase. Both this one, the woman who's displaying this money veilers, and the other one who was not displaying this money veilers, they both believe to say that her husband died and she may remarry. That's according to the Chacham. Mishnah Beis. Beis Hillel says, "Lo, new case. Lo shamanu ala b'var ben akatzer." We have not heard that the Chacham allowed a woman to be married based on her own edus that her husband died, except when she comes from the grain harvest. The Medina testifies that her husband died nearby in the same country. It is only in this case that she is believed. Okay, Ma'aseh Shahaya, because this is like the incident that occurred, which is what established this halacha. Um, the the Ma'aseh was that there was a man who had been harvesting grain with a large group of people, and yet his wife was the only witness to his death. Because of this, the Chachamim realized that it is often difficult to find two witnesses to testify about a man's death. Therefore, they allowed the leniency of accepting a wife's testimony to her husband's death, um, because because otherwise you'd have a problem. Um, no, so according to Beis Hillel, it has to be in the same country. So if you're in, let's say you're in New York's a state. Let's say let's assume for a second the state is the same as the country. Okay, you're in New York. You live, your residence of New York, and then something happens in New York that the husband dies, and the wife goes to Basin in New York to say that her husband died, then she'd be believed. But maybe if she's from New York, but she went to France or she went to, I don't know, England or whatever, then testify in England that the husband died in New York on a forest hike or whatever, they wouldn't believe her. Okay. I'm not sure if it works state to state. Maybe, maybe not. I'm going to consult a local Orthodox rabbi for that answer, that question. This is not a halacha. Amrulahem Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai said to Beis Hillel, Achas haba min hakatzi. It is clear that when a woman comes from the grain harvest, Achas haba min hazesim, or whether the woman comes from harvesting olives, Achas haba min habatzi, whether the woman comes from harvesting grapes, she is believed, even though the law was instituted as a result of an instance which a man died harvesting grain, because it was by grain, it would apply to all the other harvests as well. So too, even if a woman comes from one country to another country, this is also accepted. The Chachamim who established this halacha mentioned the grain harvest only because that was what happened. However, they meant to martyr a woman in any case, even if she comes to a court in a different country. Beis Hillel then retracted the original ruling, began to rule like Beis Shammai. It doesn't happen too often. And by doing so, the wife would be believed if she says that her husband died overseas following this final ruling, which Beis Shammai agree with Beis Hillel. Mishnah Gimel. Beis Shammai says, Tinase v'tito ksubasa. The woman who testifies that her husband died may be married. She can collect her ksuba. Since she is believed that her husband is dead, she may collect her ksuba, which is a widow's right. Beis Hillel says, Tinase lotito ksubas. She may be married, but she may not collect her ksuba. It's because the edus of a wife is not usually uh, edus nemenis. Chachamim allowed us to rely on her edus only in order to allow her to remarry. Since um, in order to claim the ksuba, she has to produce two kosher witnesses that her husband is dead, as for every matter of dine mamas. Amr Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai said to Basila, he tarted erba chamura. You have matter the serious matter of a forbidden relationship, allowing a woman to remarry based on her own edus. Lo satira as mama nakal. We do not rely on it to permit the less serious matter of money, granting her the ksuba. You already told her she can remarry, so let her get a ksuba. Like what the heck? Like what's going on over here? Beis Hillel responded, "Amalham Beis Hillel, Beis Hillel said to Beis Shammai, Metzinu she'ein ha'achim nichnasin nachla al piyah." We find that the brothers and other heirs of her husband cannot come into the inheritance of her property based on her word. Her husband's heirs cannot inherit the property unless two kosher witnesses testify that he is dead. It's there. It's clear enough that even though it's clear through her testimony that her anus is enough to let her remarry, it is not relied upon for the Yevamos. Therefore, she cannot be, her anus cannot be relied upon to collect the money, the ksuba. We can learn that from the text of the ksuba document, right, that the woman can collect the money based on her own testimony. Shehu Koseva, for her husband writes her to her in the Subashim Tinasi, the Acher Titli Mash Kosev Lichi, when you will be eligible to marry another man, you can take what is written for you in this document. That's the collect. Therefore, the collection of a ksuba depends on her ability to remarry. So when she testifies that her husband is dead, she's given permission to remarry, she can collect the ksuba as well. Beis Hillel then retracted their original ruling and began to rule like Beis Shammai. Mishnah Dalet, Hakol Nemanim L'Ha'ida. Everyone is believed to testify for a wife that her husband died, even people usually not accepted as witnesses in court. Chutz Chamos, except for the following five women: her mother-in-law, Ubas Chamos, so her mother-in-law's daughter, meaning her husband's sister, Vitzarasa, and her co-wife, Yevimta, and her sister-in-law, the wife of her husband's brother, Ubasba, and her stepdaughter. Since these five women often hate the wife for whom they are testifying, their edus is not believed because they are suspected of lying in order to cause her to marry against halacha. So that when her husband returns, she will be chayav to all the unction that are given to a woman who remarries while her husband is still alive. However, these five women are believed if they bring the same wife as get from overseas and claim that it is kosher. And we're going to talk about that case. Get Lemisa. Once there is between a get for which these women are believed and the death of the husband, which they are not believed. Why are they believed that they testify that her get is kosher? Should we not suspect that there too they are lying to cause her to remarry unlawfully? In the case of a get, the written document shows that they are telling the truth. The get that the shaliach is carrying is the evidence that the man divorced his wife, um, and therefore they're believed. They're not believed on their testimony. They believe in the actual hard evidence that they have in their hands. Hey, Omer, Meis Venisis. If one witness said that a man died and his wife remarried, or was simply given permission to remarry based on that edus, and another witness came and said that that the man had not died. The wife does not leave the state of having been permitted to remarry, even though the Chachamim accepted the edus of a single witness who said that a man died. A witness who says that he did not die does not have the same credibility. Therefore, only the first witness is believed. The wife does not lose her reshus to remarry. Aid Omer Meis Ushnaim Omer Blomes. However, one witness said that the husband died, and the two witnesses that he did not die. Ava Pisha Nisays say, even if his wife, even if his wife had already remarried, she must leave her new husband. Since two Adim have more credibility than one witness, their edus is believed over that of the original witness, and she loses her permission to remarry. Shnayim Omer Meis Omer Lo Meis. So too, if two Adim say that he died, and one witness say that he did not die, even if she had not yet remarried, she may remarry because a single witness is not believed to contradict the edus of two witnesses. Mishnah Achas Amaris Meis, Achas Amaris Lomes. If two co-wives they come from overseas, one of them says that the husband died, and one says that he did not die. Zusha Amaris Meis, the one who says that he died may remarry and collect her ksuba, since the woman is believed to say that her husband died, and the co-wife is not believed to contradict her. However, the one who says that her husband died may not, the daughter says that the husband did not die, may not remarry, may not collect her husband, her ksuba, because she herself claims that the husband is still alive. So how could she collect? Because you're working on how could she collect when she herself says that he didn't die? Like, that doesn't work. Achas Samaris Meis, Achas Samaris Nara. One co-wife says that the husband died a natural death, and one says that he was killed. Meir says, Hoel Omachishos Zu Hare Lo Yunasu. Since they are contradicting each other, they both may not remarry. According to a mayor, a co-wife is believed to contradict a co-wife. Since these women contradict each other, one of them must be lying, and therefore neither of them may marry. Rabbi Shimon say, since each admits that her husband is not alive, they both may remarry. Next case, Eid Omer Meis, Eid Omer Lomes. The one witness says that a man died, and the court rules that his wife may be married. And before the court rules that the wife may be married, another witness says that he did not die. Isha Omeres Meis, Isha Omeres Lomes. Or if a witness says that he died, and before the court rules that his wife may be married, another witness says that he did not die. This his wife may not remarry. That's the rule. Mishnah Vav. Ha'isha shahachav he ubada l'dina siyam. If a woman went with her husband overseas, she came back and said, her husband died. She may remarry and collect ksuba. The woman is believed to say that her husband died. It's Sarasa Asura, but her co-wife is Asur to remarry. Because based on this, because the co-wife may not marry based on her co-wife's testimony, as we saw in the previous Mishnah. So the co-wife, if the co-wife did not testify, who did not testify was the daughter of Yisrael, who was married to a Kohen, who was allowed to eat truma only as long as her husband is alive. So Tocha Truma, so she may continue to eat truma on the presumption that the husband is still alive, Since the edus of the first co-wife was not believed with regard to the second co-wife may continue to act in every way as though the husband is still alive. Different Rabbi Tarfon. This is the opinion of Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Kiva says, "Ein zu derech motziyasa midei aver." This is not the way to free you from the possibility of sin. Rather, she can be assured of not sinning only if she'll be asked her to remarry and forbidden to eat truma. Although her co-wife's testimony is not believed in order to allow her to remarry, there is nevertheless a doubt whether the husband is alive. Therefore, to ensure that she does not sin, she may not remarry, and she may not eat truma. Mishnah Zion. If a woman went overseas with her husband and her father-in-law, she returned and said, "My husband died and my father died." She may marry and collect her ksuba because she is believed to say that her husband died. The chamosa asura, but her mala is also to remarry or to collect her ksuba because the mala may not remarry based on the edus of her daughter-in-law. We learned that a couple of days ago. If the mala was the daughter of Yisrael who was married to a Kohen, she could continue to eat tshuva on the presumption that her husband was still alive because the edus of the daughter-in-law was rejected. The very tired for this, according to the Kiva says, this is not the way to free her from the possibility of sin. Rather, she can be assured of not sinning. Only if she'll be asked to remarry and asked to tshuva, even though her daughter-in-law's testimony is not believed to allow her to remarry, there's still a doubt whether her husband is alive, and therefore she cannot eat truma, even though she cannot get remarried. Next case. Kidesh achas is a kidesh. If someone gave Erison an Erison with Bia to one of 5 women, he does not know which one he was ma'aris, he got engaged to. Bad situation to do. Rule of thumb. Always know the woman who you're getting engaged to. It's not a good idea to do otherwise. Excuse me. Kol achas omeres osi kiddush. And each woman says he betrothed me. He gave kedushin to one, but 5 of them claimed that he gave kedushin to them. No, saying get achas. He must give a get to each of them before she can marry another man. Umaniach ksuba beinehen umistalik. And he places the money one ksuba between them, and thereby removes himself from the obligation to pay the ksuba. Since each woman claims that she was betrothed to him, none of them can marry until she receives a get. It's a very silly thing to do because now they can't marry Kohanim because now they're considered divorced. So why they would do that, and then they're going to take one ksuba payment and divide it amongst 5 people, so like you're getting like almost nothing. But they're Rabbi Tarfon. That's according to Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Kiva Amran. Rabbi Kiva says, "This is not the way to free him from the possibility of sin. Rather, he can be assured of fulfilling his scheme to pay the ksuba. No. Get only if he gives a get and a ksuba to each woman, since he owes the ksuba on account of having betrothed a woman through bia, which is also deribanan. The chachamim imposed a penalty in order to discharge his chiyuv and pay the ksuba. He must pay everything. Okay, so that's interesting. Then, since because according to the chachamim, even though kesef star and bia is good for for, for Kenyan, but the Chachamim said you cannot be Mekadesh to be it. It's not that they asked with that. So this guy went ahead and did Kedushin through BS, and now he's going to be penalized, having to pay these five women, even though it was only Kaddish one. Gazel Echem Mechamisha ve'en yodei me'ez Gazel. If someone stole from him, if someone stole from one of five, if someone stole from one of five people, does not know which one he stole. Called Echad Omer Osi Gazel, and each one says he stole from me. He places the stolen object between them and thereby removes himself from the obligation to repay the theft. Since he stole only one object, he does not have to repay more than one object. This is according to Tarfim. Kiva says, this is not the way to free him from the possibility of sin. Rather, he can be assured that he has repaid the theft. Only if he repays the value of the stolen object to each person, since he owes the money because he took it unlawfully, the Chachamim penalized him that in order to fulfill his chiyuv to repay the theft, he must repay everyone who claims to have been the victim of the theft. Okay, now the next few mishnahs to the end of the Perek are going to talk about a woman who's believed to testify that her status with regards to Yibam. So Mishnah Ches, Ha'isha shahalcha hi abala havdina siyam. If a woman went with her husband overseas, ubana imahim, and her only child was with them, above Amr Meis Bali Lachach Meis Bini, and she came back alone and said that my husband died and then my child died, which means that her husband did not die childless, and therefore she's pater from Yibam. Now, she's believed that she could remarry without doing Yibam or Chalitza. However, if she said, my child died, then my husband died, which means that her husband died childless, and she is bound to his brother for Yibam. And she's not believed that she is chayav to Yibam, since she is presumed to be pater from Yibam. She is not believed to testify that her status changed, and therefore she remains pater from Yibam. Nevertheless, we're concerned by the words. And therefore she must perform chalitza, but may not perform Yibam. Mishnah test. No nita only ben young. If a childless couple went overseas and the wife returned and said, I was granted a child overseas, but Amra Meis then she added, however, my child died and then my husband died, which meant that her husband died childless and she's bound to Yibam. Now, she's believed and is subject to Yibam. Meis Bali Wachach Meis Bini. However, she said my husband died and then my child died, which means that she is pater from Yibam. She's not believed that she's pater from Yibam. In this case, she is testifying that her edus, that her status with regard to Yibam has changed, which she is not believed to say. Therefore, she remains subject to Yibam. Nevertheless, we are concerned about her words, and therefore she must perform chalitza, may not perform Yibam. By claiming that she is pater from Yibam, she effectively declared that she is usher to undergo Yibam. Therefore, she is indeed usher to do so. However, since she is presumed to be bound to the Yibam, she may not marry until she does chalitza. And Mishnah test, the lesson for today. Nitan la li yavam b'niyasiyam. If a man had no children or no brothers went overseas with his wife, and his wife returned and said, I was given a yavam overseas, meaning that my mother-in-law who was with us had a son. And then she added, that my husband died and then my Yavam died, which means that she now has no Yavam and is putter from Yibam. Yivami, Rachakat Bali, or she said my Yavam died and then my husband died, which also means that she has no Yavam and is putter from Yibam. Namena, she's believed that she can marry anyone. Since she did not have a Yavam when she went overseas, it was presumed that she would be putter from Yibam, and she is believed to say that the status has not changed. Allah, how then next case. Halcha he Yevama the Dinasiyam. If a woman went overseas with her husband and her only Yavam, Amra Meis Bali Wachak Meis Yibni. When she returned and said, my husband died, then my Yavam died, which means that she is pater from Yibam. If a me Wachak Bali, or she said my Yavam died and then my husband died, this also means that she is pater from Yibam, even although she is believed that her husband died. And in the menace, she is not believed that her husband died, and she may not marry a stranger. Shein Haisha Nemenes Lomar Meis Yivamit Chitinase. If a woman is known to have a Yavam, she is not believed to say, my Yavam died, so that she may marry without Yibam or Chalitza. Since a woman often hates her Yavam, she is suspected of lying about his death to avoid becoming bound to him for Ibn. And the final case, below Mesa Achosis Tikanis the Mesa, woman is also not believed to say, my sister died so that she may enter the household of her sister's husband. Um, that's a problem. Ve'ein ha'ish ne'man lamar meis achi sheyibim ishto. And the man is not believed to say that my brother died, so he may perform even with his brother's wife, because we suspect that he might be lying out of a desire for her. Nor is the man believed to say, my wife died, so that he may marry her sister. Since he and his wife's sister can marry other people, there's no reason to be lenient and accept the aidus of a single witness. Accordingly, all these matters can be established only to the aidus of two valid witnesses, as for all matters that concern marital relationships. Okay, that's all for today. Tomorrow we will finish the Masechta. So please join us then. Hopefully at the same time as today, 7:15 in the morning. Have a great day. Call to.